Okay, so you've probably heard the term dark web thrown around, right? It sounds like something straight out of a movie. But what you probably use every day, Google, social media, shopping sites, that's barely scratching the surface of what the internet actually is. What's underneath is, well, it's a whole different world.
96%.
Just let that number sink in for a second. That's how much of the entire internet is estimated to be completely invisible to you and me using a regular browser. It's not on Google, it's not on Bing, it's hidden on purpose. So, what in the world is going on in this massive, invisible web?
To get it, you gotta picture the internet in 3 layers. That tiny little 4% slice we all hang out on, that's the surface web. Now the huge middle chunk is the deep web. And look, this part isn't as scary as it sounds. It's just stuff behind a login. Your email inbox, your online banking, your company's private network. But tucked away inside that deep web, there's another, much smaller layer that's built for total anonymity. And that is the dark web.
So how did this super secret, hidden corner of the internet even start? Well, the origin story is probably not what you're thinking. It didn't come from some hacker basement. The real story is way more surprising.
Get ready for this, because here's the kicker. The tech that makes the dark web possible was invented by the US Navy. No joke. The very same tool that's now famous for all sorts of illegal stuff was originally built to keep American spies safe online.
It all started back in the mid-90s. The US Naval Research Lab was working on this new thing called onion routing, but they hit a major snag. For this network to actually hide their agents, it couldn't just be used by their agents. I mean, think about it. If there's a secret network and the only people on it are spies, it's not very secret anymore, is it? So in 2002, they did something radical. They released the code to the public for free. And just like that, the Onion Router, or Tor, was born.
Okay, so that explains the why it was created. But what about the how? How does this thing actually make somebody vanish online?
It all boils down to this brilliant idea called onion routing. And honestly, the name is perfect. It literally wraps your data in layers upon layers of encryption, just like an onion, and then sends it on a crazy, unpredictable trip around the world. Let's walk through it. Say you send a request. First, it gets wrapped up in all those encryption layers. Then, it zips through a random path of servers run by volunteers. These are called relays. Now, each relay only peels back one single layer of the onion, just enough to know where to send it next. Finally, the last server in the chain, the exit relay, sends your request to its final destination. And here is the absolute genius of the whole system. No single point along that entire journey knows both where the data came from and where it's going. You're a ghost in the machine. And yeah, those servers are called relays. They're just run by volunteers all over the globe who donate their bandwidth to keep this network alive. It's this whole system of guard, middle, and exit relays that makes the whole anonymity thing actually work. But, and this is a big but, that kind of powerful anonymity is a magnet for people who want to stay hidden for not so good reasons. It created the perfect conditions for a massive underground marketplace for crime. $500,000.
That's the low-end estimate for how much money changes hands on these marketplaces every single day. It's a completely separate, booming criminal economy that never, ever closes.
So what's driving all this cash? Well, the first thing most people think of, and for good reason, is drug trafficking.
The most famous, or maybe infamous example was Silk Road. People called it the Amazon for drugs. The FBI managed to shut it down back in 2013, but the second it went down, a dozen more popped up to take its place. And they all used the same playbook: anonymous browsing with Tor and payments using hard-to-trace cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin.
All right, next up on the auction block, hacked data. In this world, your entire digital life is for sale. You remember huge data breaches like the Ashley Madison hack? The private data of 32 million people was just dumped online? Or the time a collection of 1.4 billion personal records was found for sale? This is where that stuff ends up. It gets packaged, priced, and sold to whoever wants it.
And it keeps going. That same anonymity also fuels a bustling and very illegal trade in weapons.
We can even get a little peek behind the curtain at the supply chain. A lot of the firearm vendors are just listed as being somewhere in Europe, but we can see that countries like Denmark and Germany show up as major sources for weapons being sold on these hidden sites. But here's the thing. If you only focus on the crime, you're really only getting half the story.
Because the same anonymity that protects criminals is also used to protect some of the most vulnerable people in the world. It's a constant battle for the soul of the dark web.
This really gets to the core paradox of the whole thing. You've got these two faces of the exact same technology. On one hand, it's a tool for crime, but on the other, it's an absolute lifeline for journalists, for activists, for whistleblowers, people who rely on that anonymity to fight for what's right.
Just think about it for a second. This technology becomes a weapon for freedom in countries where the internet is heavily censored. It's how journalists can talk to sources without putting them in danger. It's how activists organize against oppressive regimes. Heck, even law enforcement uses it to go undercover. And get this, even huge companies like Facebook and the search engine DuckDuckGo run their own special .onion sites, only accessible through Tor, so people in high-risk places can get to them safely.
And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict, the fundamental problem of this technology. Privacy is a double-edged sword. So it really all comes down to one single question. In a world where we're being watched and tracked constantly, is total unbreakable anonymity a fundamental right we have to protect no matter what? Or is it a dangerous threat that we have to find some way to control? There's no easy answer, and how we decide to tackle that question is going to shape the future of our digital lives.